More.
All right, we're going to start streaming.
Hello.
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 Oh.
Hello. Boop. All right, ready to dive right into this?
Dive on in.
Dive on in.
Dive on in.
Devin on in.
Devin's on in. All right, I'm excited. We're going to talk about books versus series comparison. Let's get it going.
3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to the Hard to Say Goodbye.
Welcome to Hard to Say Goodbye.
Bonus. We're going to compare the books to the series. This is episode 3, so we're talking about the back half of season 1 and the beginning of season 2. Boy, howdy, a lot of stuff happens.
Yeah.
Trisha, we're going to just go ahead and turn to you now and let us know what's different or what's the same.
Okay, there are lots and lots of things that are different, and especially as we start to enter season 2, we're going to see more deviations. But let's wrap out the end of season 1, and I just to be clear, I don't highlight everything that's different. I only highlight the stuff that I think is interesting.
Yeah, whatever you care about,
because
we're
there's
probably
a
gonna care
lot of
about
stuff
too.
that's like, well, this guy was actually named this and was from this place, and I'm like, doesn't affect the overall story.
Yeah.
Don't really care. But it's good to know that, I guess, maybe, if you want. But anyway, all right, so let's get into episode 9.
Let's do it.
Baylor. You know, everyone's favorite happy episode.
It is.
So, okay, big deal. Varys comes to talk to Ned. In the books, he straight up is like, hey, if you don't admit and do everything Cersei wants you to do, they're going to kill Sansa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So instead of it just being like, wow,
Whoa.
Ned's lying for the first time because maybe he's trying to play the game, or us like questioning his motives, or he thinks he'll get out of it.
Straightforward.
It's straightforward. We're going to kill your daughter
Cool.
if you don't do it. So it makes it a little bit more understandable from Ned's perspective of why he does what
We
he
are
does.
going to, or Cersei's going to more.
Well,
so,
you know,
yeah.
Varys, it's never his fault.
You're right.
He's just like, well, if you don't give in to Cersei.
Yeah, no,
This
Sansa's
is gonna
definitely going to die.
happen. Yeah. So he straight up tells her that, or tells him that, when Walder Frey makes his demands of these are the things that I need, he also has the stipulation that 2 of his sons, named Little Walder and Big Walder,
Cool.
Little big.
Little and Big Walder, be taken as wards and taken back to Winterfell to be raised with Bran and Rickon. And Catelyn says yes because she's like, well, Bran probably needs more kids his own age up there right now anyway.
No.
So
Yeah.
that's an interesting addition that affects things later when we return to Winterfell.
Was that immediately? Did that immediately happen? 'Cause
I want to say just the next time we were in Winterfell, they were there.
In the
I
books.
feel like
yeah.
that would have made things play out differently.
In some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say that's because
He
I
did
remember
have a lot of kids.
I remember lots of scenes with Bran and Rickon and Little and Big Walder
Gotcha.
up in Winterfell. That's a thing.
All right.
Yep.
Little and big.
Ah.
Oh, he's getting his shenanigans.
Right?
Yeah.
Shay in the series has a much larger role than in the books at this point. In the books, we don't really get a backstory on Shay. So we get more of that. The drinking game thing doesn't happen in the books.
So it's more, she matters more in book 2, maybe.
She matters more when it comes to the end of Shay's storyline.
Interesting. So maybe it's something they were like, well, let's see this a little earlier.
I think the show really liked the actress that they
Yeah.
cast as Shay, which I don't. I'm constantly torn whether I think she's a horrible actress or she's doing a good job.
The accent, sometimes it's hard for me to fit. I get that understanding.
I
get
like
that
her.
feeling.
I think they struggle a little bit with her ultimate where she ends up because they stick to what happened in the book, and the way she's portrayed in the series, I don't think
It's
sets
very
that up.
confusing.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Because my understanding is her affection towards Tyrion is more ambiguous in the books.
It is.
And in the show, I feel pretty confident that she's all for Tyrion.
Yeah.
Which makes things later complicated.
I don't know that I buy that in the series either.
Interesting.
Maybe not all
Maybe
4.
because I knew already. Maybe because I'm going into it like that, but I don't know. But
Getting
yeah,
ahead of ourselves.
they build out Shay's character more in the series, which I think was a good move. I think she's an interesting character, and whether you think it's bad acting or just the accent or whatever, I think she is a fan favorite. People really like her.
I do.
So she also gives us another window into the Tysha backstory.
Yes.
So let's talk about Tysha.
Yeah, you've
for
been
a
waiting for
hot
this
second.
one.
Well, I'm actually waiting for it much later.
Okay.
Because the way that it's set up in the books, we get the Tysha story pretty much as we got it in the show, with the exception of, you're going to love this, and by love it, I mean hate it. After all of the soldiers gang rape her,
Classic.
Tywin makes Tyrion be the last one. And then, even though all the other soldiers gave her a silver, Tyrion has to pay her a gold when he's done because Lannisters are worth more.
Gross.
And she's just running around doing stuff like she's whatever. She's
she's just in the middle of like the court getting gang raped.
Oh no! I mean after that. Is she?
Oh, we don't hear about her after.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
we don't know her fate. We don't know.
I mean that's the end of her story from what
pretty
we hear
awful
there, I think. But the big thing with Tysha is both in the books and the series at this point, to be continued. We think we've gotten the full story. And I think for the series, this is the full story. I don't know that we ever get the end to this story in the series unless, and I'm hesitant to say what it is because I feel like it's such a big deal and they're missing out on so much by not including it that maybe they'll drop it later.
I feel like this is like Lady Stoneheart. If it was going to happen, it would have happened.
See, and Stoneheart is another big thing that you're like, maybe they'll get there at some point.
Yeah.
And maybe you're right. Maybe if it was going to happen, it would have happened.
I mean,
but
we only have 6 episodes left. It's a little late in the
true.
game.
And they're like 3 hours though. So you could have a new
They're
character.
Not, but yeah.
They're
in
like
my
7
opinion,
hours.
the end of the Tysha story, like when you get that.
Yeah.
When you get that is when Tyrion finds out the rest of it. And it completely changes his relationship with Jaime. It completely changes his character and his character motivations for the entire rest of the time that we see him in the books. So for like a whole book plus, he's a totally different person. And the series could have chosen not to go that way because they want to keep Tyrion the way that Peter Dinklage has portrayed Tyrion so far.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But it's so impactful. It breaks my heart that they don't include it in the series, at least yet. So secretly, I kind of hope that they do, but I also secretly kind of hope that Stoneheart makes an appearance.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
For people who don't know, who is Lady Stoneheart?
We'll get to that later.
We'll get to
Really?
that later.
She's not here yet.
No.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll get to that later.
Because I've definitely heard you guys have at least mentioned, or somebody has, and I've never done any research on her.
Weird and cool storyline that, like, in the books, you're like, where is George going with this?
Yeah.
That the series just completely skips.
And I think
Maybe you answered it with that.
I mean,
comment.
maybe they were like, I don't want to deal with this.
that, and I think it also makes an event that happens with another character less special.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating though.
Hopefully
It's
we can talk
fascinating
about it.
because the Stoneheart thing adds to the mythos of the world and what's actually going on. So when you take that out, you're like, that takes away a lot of hints about what might be happening here.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is weird. And the other thing with episode 9, Baelor, so the Tyrion fight where he gets knocked out and doesn't fight, he, in the books, gives the rallying speech and rushes in and actually fights a guy.
Good for him.
He actually fights a guy.
Question,
One guy.
One guy.
Does he earlier in season 1 he gets shield murder?
Oh, he
does he
does
get that in the
shield-
book?
I don't remember if he murders that guy or not.
So-
I think he does. I think he's victorious.
Okay.
I think he fights a guy and he's victorious, but that's like all the action we see him have in this battle. Like, it's not a lot.
Okay.
But he does have some.
But does he get
Okay.
knocked out?
It's not portrayed in the same way as he just
slapsticky?
or like is kind of wussy, like that he just runs in and get knocked out and sleeps through the whole thing.
Yeah.
That it's not portrayed that way
saved so much
that I
money, though.
remember
They did.
in the
Yeah.
books.
They
They
did.
saved a lot of money by
Yeah.
that. And really, he fought one dude, so it's not like it was that big of a difference. All right, moving into episode 10, Fire and Blood, end of season 1. Yoren tells Arya at this point that the whole reason he was there watching the execution was because he was told that Ned was going to get sent to the wall.
Oh,
So
okay.
he was there to pick up Ned, which confirms
that
like
makes sense.
that really was the plan.
Yeah.
Like
'Cause you know
everyone was
how
on board with it. Joffrey
Everyone was
just
on
bungled
board.
it.
This is what was going to happen. And then the Arya and Hot Pie fight when she like threatens him with needle. Way worse in the books. P.S. She punches him in the face so hard she breaks his nose. Then he
Jeez.
comes after her with a rock, like trying to crush her and throw it at her skull. And the way that Gendry comes in the show, it's like Gendry stops the whole thing. What a hero. Gendry overall in the books is a much smaller character.
Interesting.
And in the show, they combine a lot of third-party characters into Gendry's storyline
Probably for the
to
best.
give him more to do, I
Okay.
think, because I think people like him, or maybe the show's going to make him go somewhere. But Gendry is almost a throwaway character in the books.
Interesting.
So Gendry Gendry just is like, hey, watch out, when the rock's coming at her head. That's about as much as he's involved in this fight.
What a
hero. And then she, because he warns her, does not get hit with a rock in the head. And then she beats Hot Pie until he poops his pants. He soils himself, and that is the end of that fight.
I knew Hot Pie was my favorite.
So it's a much bigger deal, that fight. Whereas in the series, it's just like, go threaten, and then Gendry stops in, and it's over.
Some people are born to be soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. In the books, when Jaime has his Catelyn and Robb, or his Catelyn moments, he is much more taunting and way more of an asshole. I think he actually has a quote like, when talking about Bran. Also, this is just when she discovers that they pushed Bran. She doesn't know until this point in the story in the books. And he's like, yes, and I meant for him to die. Like, he's very upfront about it.
Yeah.
And Catelyn doesn't hit him in the books.
Interesting.
Which I like that they added that in the series.
Yeah.
I think that was a very real, honest moment for her and for her character. So in other moments where I felt like the series kind of took away from how strong and badass she can be, I feel like this was a put it back in moment. Unless you saw that as emotional weakness. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Her lashing out and
her hitting him.
No, yeah. I mean, with everything else happening, I think hitting him is very well deserved.
Oh,
yeah, I don't think that's a weakness at all. I would do it.
At this point,
I would have done more probably because I get emotional. I would be like, nah, and I
but
would have
she's
just
smart.
laughed
She
out.
knows if she kills Jaime, then that's a bargaining tool they lose.
And she
Unlike Cersei with Ned. Catelyn playing the game smarter than Cersei, huh?
Also, she maybe learned a little bit from capturing Tyrion immediately, and kind of maybe in a way starting some of this some of the bad things. She's not responsible, but she definitely made some not great decisions.
Well, and remember in the books, she's the one telling Lysa, no, we're not giving him a trial by combat. Are you nuts? Because either he walks free or he dies. Both are bad for us strategically.
Yeah.
Like, Catelyn is on top of that in the books, not as much in the series.
Oopsie.
Okay, so let's move it over to Daenerys. Her blood riders, who in the series are just kind of, I think, portrayed as like always having followed her and believe in her. In the books, they're very staunch about like, while we respect you, we cannot follow a Khaleesi. We only follow calls. You are a Khaleesi. So they agree to escort her back to Vaestro Thrak to join the other former Khaleesi's.
Yeah.
But they do not agree to follow her until she emerges from the pyre.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you are now blood of my blood.
Cool.
Yeah, so it gains her an army kind of at that point when she emerges. And yes, as you mentioned when we talked about it before, she has no hair.
Which makes sense.
When she comes out of the pyre, first of all, the pyre is overnight, so she doesn't emerge until the next morning. Yeah, so it's like dark when she enters, and she doesn't emerge till the next morning. She has no hair, I assume no eyebrows, like everything is completely burnt off her. And she emerges with either one or both of the dragons nursing breast milk from her because she was pregnant. So she has mother's milk.
Okay.
So she is quite literally mothering these dragons.
I'm okay with that change.
When she emerges.
I'm right
So
with
yeah,
that.
it's a different.
Yeah, it's different.
I mean, still very powerful though. I like the way they did it in the books too.
It would have been kind of cool if she got her hair burnt off, and only the sense that there's women with short hair that look cool. Buzz cut could have looked badass.
It's also consistency. It's one of those things like when someone drinks an invisibility potion and their clothes are magically invisible too.
Yeah.
Let's be consistent, folks. If she does not burn, that does not mean that her hair does not burn.
Yeah.
Or maybe it does line up.
Maybe it does.
Yeah. So the decision here is that it does. That it does.
Yes.
And that, so if you made a suit out of her hair, you might be fired.
It'd be flame retardant.
Yeah.
Boom. Something to think about. Everybody.
Hey, we just
Or
need
in
to
the
make
book.
the entire Night's Watch wear Daenerys hair suits.
Or the guy in the book who made the suit out of the hair. He's like, I got it. And he runs in and just... The hair burns up quicker and it smells worse.
Perfect. But yeah, both the book and the show end on Dany emerging from the pyre, which I just think is a super magical moment. I think they both did it really, really well. And again, this is... When you're talking about season 1, it very closely follows the book as to the extent of even finishing on the last scene, which is cool.
That is cool.
Okay, moving into season 2, where we start to deviate a little bit more. And again, I'm not going to go over every deviation because some of them are very tiny. But okay, in the books, Crescen, who is the priest on the Iron Islands, the Greyjoy priest that ends up going bye-byes because he tried to murder Melisandre.
Yeah,
that guy?
Dragonstone.
Dragonstone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Crescen is a bigger deal in the books. So we find out that Crescen, like just an example, he was the surrogate father to the Baratheon kids when they were younger.
Oh, wow.
So
world?
part of the reason he is so anti-Melisandre and some of the stuff she's doing is because she's openly talking about Stannis murdering Renly for trying to lay claim to the throne. And like Crescen's like, I raised these boys. You're not going to murder your brother. Are you crazy?
By those, you mean those Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I wish somebody had pointed out more like, wait, you're going to go kill your brother? What the?
Right. Like it's
cool.
very
Calm
like
down.
Crescen makes a lot more sense in the books where he's like, wait, guys, this chick shows up and now you're burning your gods. You're going to kill your brother. Like, what is happening here? Also in the books, Stannis isn't as necessarily as on board with the Lord of Light.
Yeah, he seems totally on board.
Yeah, we see in the books it's all his wife, Selyse.
Interesting.
So Selyse is completely converted, in love with the Lord of Light, and she's always the one going to Stannis and saying, you know, she's the one who actually urges him to sleep with Melisandre, and she's like, I couldn't give you a son. The Lord of Light will bless you a son. You need to worship with the priestess, like however she says it.
Yeah,
but
we see a little bit of that later on in the show.
Right.
Yeah.
She pushes him very heavily, and she's like, I believe you will have this victory thanks to the Lord of Light. And kind of out of respect for his wife, he starts going along with it. But he's not fully convinced that this is the new god.
Yeah.
And the burning the seven doesn't happen until later in the books.
Interesting.
It is a cool set piece to open up like Stannis's entire story.
Yeah, also in the book, Stannis was made well aware of the Lannister incest way before this, and he's the one who initially told Jon Arryn. So it's not like Ned's letter got to him and he's like, well, now I know. Like, Stannis is a bitter man because he has known this for quite some time.
So he knew before the events of the first book?
Yeah.
How? And why didn't he say anything?
I don't remember how he knew, and I would assume he didn't say anything because Robert was king. You know, so he wouldn't have had claim to the throne until after Robert died.
Interesting.
I think it clears up some things with him not knowing beforehand. I mean, just for me, it makes more sense that now everyone in like higher society is kind of aware of this dirty secret that they have.
And everyone hated Stannis. So even if he was like, hey, incest, not real, they'd all be like, okay, Stannis.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like...
We get your pouting. Can you chill out? Yeah.
Right. Also, the scene with Crescen where Melisandre's like completely mocking him openly in front of everyone, she never goes after him personally in the books. It's Selyse,
Interesting.
Stannis' wife, that's mocking him and telling him it's his old ways and all this kind of stuff. It's not Melisandre. But he sees Melisandre as the one behind it all, the puppet master, pulling all the strings. And since she's so heavily influencing Selyse, who then in turn is so heavily influencing Stannis, if we get rid of Melisandre, that gets rid of the problem. So yeah, it's fascinating. Also in the books, Dany and her call, if you will, her excuse for a call, follow the comet.
Interesting.
They go in the direction of the comet. That's the direction they choose to take.
Yeah, because that's not established in this. They're not. She looks up for a second, and that's about as much as they acknowledge that.
Yeah, not that they're following it.
That's kind of cool.
Jon at Craster's Keep finds buried old Night's Watch stuff, including a whole bunch of obsidian daggers and stuff.
That's important.
At this
Hold on
point.
to that.
Yeah.
Don't lose track of it.
Right. So at this point, he finds like an old Night's Watch clothes and stuff with a bunch of obsidian stuff that I think at this point he gives to them to make weapons out of, not knowing what it's for.
Yeah.
It's just old Night's Watch stuff. But it's interesting that seed is planted so early of like, oh, why would the Night's Watch have obsidian stuff before?
Yeah.
You know,
it's cooler.
From the last winter, mayhaps. Or even prior, who knows? The scene between Tyrion and Cersei, where he's like, look, you done messed up. is so much worse in the books.
Oh, wow.
He calls her out on everything. And we know from both the books and the series that the only person she even cares about their opinion is her dad. So when he's coming in and he's like, look, Dad thinks you're dumb.
Yeah.
And here's the reasons why.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the ultimate smackdown. So he tells her, Dad thinks you're dumb for laying off Sir Barristan.
Yeah.
None of the
dumb.
Kingsguard have ever been fired. What were you thinking? That was stupid. He gets her in that conversation to admit to telling Lancel to give Robert too much wine on that hunt.
Ooh.
So she essentially admits to killing Robert.
Isn't that scene though with a bunch of people around, or is that just this is them one-on-one in the book?
This is just them one-on-one.
Gotcha.
Well, it turns into one-on-one in the
One-on-one,
series.
yeah.
She asks everyone else to leave, I think. He says, Dad thinks you're dumb for making Janos Slint a lord. And giving him, because I'm pretty sure they make him Lord of Harrenhal. And
he's random other guy in the room, right? Yeah, he's the one I don't recognize.
Yes, and Tywin's like, that's a seat for kings.
No.
That is not a seat for this guy.
No.
Who's this guy? He says, Dad thinks you're dumb for making the Hound part of the Kingsguard, because the Hound has always refused to become a knight. And if you're not a knight, how can you be a member of the Kingsguard? So it's like all these things that are like, these were stupid moves on you for you as Queen Regent.
Probably a good move.
And Dad thinks you're dumb for Ned's execution. Because another thing that's kind of shown in the books that they don't really talk about in the series is that Ned's execution, and this solidifies that it was everyone's plan to have him join the Wall. The High Septon is there, and actually the High Septon gives the speech that they have Master Pycelle give at Ned's execution. But the High Septon was assured that there would be no violence on the Sept of Baelor. So when he's executed on the Sept of Baelor, the High Septon is now pissed because that's an affront to the Sept of Baelor. So it's like, Tyrion's just like, hey, you pissed off everyone, you stupid bitch. Like, this was really bad, and Dad's mad at you, so he sent me here to rule because you're dumb. And so it's just like this big, big thing.
She probably took that well.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of Cersei taking things well, the scene with her and Joffrey, the slap scene, that's not really a thing.
Interesting.
In the book. So that was added by the show. In the books, Joffrey listens to his mom.
Interesting.
For the most part. With
least
the exception,
now,
with the exception of like the lashing out for Ned's execution, but like in general, when she gives him a command, he does it. He's still a shit. Don't get me wrong. And he'll do things like with Sansa saying, "Well, Mother told me I should never hit my lady, so why don't you hit her?" Like he does that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yes, we did not mention that part.
Oh yeah, he does that.
It's almost like he's a not pleasant person.
Speaking of not pleasant, when all the babies are murdered,
Yeah.
Go on.
In the brothel, when the babies are murdered, the mom in the brothel who has the baby taken and murdered that we see crying there, she is also murdered in that scene because she fights to try to save the child. How much more heart-wrenching is that?
Is
Thanks,
that a dare?
George. Thanks, George, for that bit of loveliness.
He must have been in a good place when he wrote that. Yeah.
All right, so moving into Season 2, Episode 2, which is the last episode we're going to discuss for this bonus episode, let's have a nice discussion about how much you guys all love Yara and Theon's introduction.
I mean, sure, it's gross here, but it couldn't be worse in the books, right, Trisha?
So, you're gonna think I'm a horrible person. It is worse in the books, and I kind of like it better the way it is in the books.
Okay, go on.
Yeah.
I'm a horrible human.
Sell us on it.
Okay, so first of all, her name is Asha with an A.
Okay.
In the books, not Yara, but considering we already have an Asha spelled with an O, and that might get confusing on the series, they changed it to Yara.
Really good choice.
Fine. Yes.
Yeah.
In general, there are too many people named the same thing or similar names in the books. It's very hard to keep straight. But in the books, Yara Asha comes on to Theon, and it's like this. It's not just like in this show it's him just being a lecher, it's Theon being Theon, you know, like what we've come to expect. But in the series, she doesn't tell him who she is, and she holds that secret for way longer. So it goes on for way longer, and she's the one initiating it. I think based on things she's heard about him. And she's doing it all so that she can make a total fool out of him when they get there in front of everyone. She like makes a big deal out of, instead of dutifully standing next to her father, which is kind of what we see in the series, she makes a big deal out of like standing up, and she says something, a knock against him or rejects him or something in front of all the men, and all the men start to laugh. And it's Theon just wondering why she commands so much attention. Like, who is this girl that everyone's listening to her? And he's starting to feel more and more stupid. And then when she finally reveals who she is and says, like, well, I thought about killing you. Like, it's to that extent where she just completely lays the smackdown of, you done been played, and now you look like a stupid idiot, so why don't you shut up and sit down, and if any of the children here are going to take this seat, it's going to be me. And it's a very, very weird but smart power play in the way that it plays out in the book.
I'll just be more candid. How bad did it? How bad?
Oh, it gets bad. They don't have sexy time.
Okay.
But that's not great either, though, because if it's not that, my imagination went
Oh, it's definitely some third base.
Gross. Okay, cool. That's gross. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Wow.
It depends on how you define third base. I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's gross.
I'm kidding.
It's not good. I mean, they're siblings. But yeah, she's doing it. And it also kind of shows how detached Asha/Yara is from her own romantic interests. Like, she doesn't care. You see that she's completely driven by having power and authority and being in charge. That is her driving motivation. And we find out later that any romantic trysts she is going to have are going to be with women anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, Theon, she is legit just playing with him. Yeah, it's not for sexual satisfaction at all. Sex doesn't play into it at all. She just knows that's his weakness, and so she's using it to her advantage.
Gross.
Yeah, real gross.
And you did no research going into this. Didn't
Nope.
Google one to see if anybody... Okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
Theon being dumb.
Yeah.
So Theon being Theon in the books is him being dumb. Theon being Theon in the show is him being a lecher.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to Tyrion's a little bit smarter in the books with his play of Shay.
Okay.
He does not keep her in the Tower of the Hand. He keeps her off-site at the Red Keep and pays someone there to keep her under wraps.
Gotcha.
So it's even creepier when he shows up to visit her and Varys is there.
Interesting.
Varys is not at the Tower hanging with Shay. He's at this Red Keep hanging with Shay. So
little
he
birds.
knows quite a bit
Yeah.
at that point. Which is scarier for Tyrion, yeah. When they send the letter from the wall that's like, hey, shit's getting real up here, we need some more help.
Yeah.
They-
the dead are getting up. Help. Yeah.
Remember how when we said the guy that attacked Captain Mormont in the books, they chopped off his hand and it like kept going and kept attacking him?
Yeah.
So they send that hand still twitching in a jar with the letter
Also,
to King's Landing.
Even like right off the bat, they're still like sending like dead body parts that are still running around.
Oh yeah, they're like, because they know that the Southerners aren't going to believe them or care.
Yeah.
And so they send that, and they still don't care.
What do they say? What could you? That's it.
Yep.
It's just dumb. That. They're like, haha, good tricks.
Yeah.
These are probably
kind of.
VFX.
Yeah, kind of.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. Selyse, I know we said, is more of the big deal in the book, Stannis' wife. But I feel like in the series, they make her seem very, like, sickly and kind of shut in. And poor Selyse. She's not so much in the books. There's no mention of that. And we've also met Shireen by this point in the books. And you know that Shireen has some issues, and that's why they keep her a little bit more hidden away. And you see that Selyse is very ashamed of her, that that's the child she gave Stannis, which is part of why she's so like, I couldn't give you the air you need. Let the Lord of Light bring you the air. Like, it's almost like she's finding her redemption in that. Yeah.
Not the healthiest.
No.
The scene where Sam saves Gilly from Snow when she's got the rabbit, it's actually Jon that does that in the books and saves her. But I think in order to build up the Sam Gilly romance, they They decided to
Gave
give that
him-
moment to
yeah.
Sam.
A hero moment.
And in the books, John never sees that baby sacrifice moment.
That was for us TV watchers.
That was for us TV watchers. So that was a nice, interesting moment where I know everyone watching the show was like, oh, the book people have all the smug book people have all the answers. We did not. We had some answers.
No.
We knew Ned was going to die.
No.
We did not know what happens to Craster's boys. It was like hinted at maybe, but left very ambiguous.
Yeah.
And the show gave us much more into
It's
that.
bad, but I thought it was going to be worse.
Okay. Well, yeah, in the books, Gilly kind of tells John,
Yeah.
this is what happens to the babies. But, like, you also don't know how much Gilly really knows or
No.
if that's something they told them to scare them, but they actually do something else with the kids.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it's Gilly tells John in the books.
Interesting.
But yeah, so just I don't know, do any of those differences change theories or thoughts about characters for you guys?
Mainly Stannis, because it's like why it makes it a little more confusing in the series. You get why he's so like revved up by like having a son, kind of. It's still like weird, but it's also weird like how like his wife, the queen, right? Like at this point, or just wife.
Well, if he's declaring
Lord-
himself as king, but Lady
Yeah.
Selyse.
Lady, okay, yeah. So her and their daughter not playing any role yet is kind of confusing.
It's a little bizarre.
It's just it more paints a picture of Stannis as just a bad guy, and he's just kind of like he's basically shunning his family to like
Yeah.
follow
Right.
And
this
what we've
new
known from
cult.
later, he's not that so bad a guy. He doesn't do anything real
No,
bad.
Never.
and he loves his daughter.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yay.
Yeah,
I mean, though he does. I
He
know
does.
I know we're being snarky, but like
No, he does. He's
That's what
just-
makes that moment so much worse.
Yeah.
oh yeah. I definitely forgot about that moment until watching it today when I had those same
Wait,
questions.
why did you watch that moment? You
No,
watched
I
that
didn't watch it.
moment?
No, watching
Oh.
the moment when he gets excited about the son. I was
Oh.
like, wait, but he has Oh, I remember.
I might. I don't know that I'm going to be able to rewatch that episode.
It's tough. I'll say that.
I
It's
mean,
tough.
it was tough before I had a buh. It might be
Now
a
it'll be
lot.
so much easier.
I might not be able to do it now. I don't. To be seen.
That I would have liked Tyrion like taking more jabs, but we still get plenty of snarky Tyrion, so that's cool. Their showing up at the Red Keep would have been way more intense. Like in the tower, the hand. In
Yeah.
the hand place,
Yeah.
Handyland.
Handyland.
Yeah, it makes sense because he could have just like looked up at the
Right.
balcony and seen that there was a woman up there, and he
Yeah.
just went and said hello. And also keeping her at the Red Keep would have made way more sense. Like Tyrion, this is
He's not
kind of
dumb.
stupid. It's like
Yeah.
it's like the kid who tries to hide the pet he kidnapped in their room.
Yeah.
It's like no, don't. Parents will never find out. I have a whole cat in here. Not the smartest, but overall. It's pretty cool. I do like learning about this a lot. What about you?
I agree. I think it's really fun. I'm glad about the changes with Yara.
In the series.
Yes.
Yes.
I almost was gonna find that chapter and do another little
No.
reading, but I was like,
I'm
it's
glad you
gonna be
didn't.
too gross.
I'm glad you didn't.
It's too. George R. R. Martin gets real in depth with those sexy scenes.
Good
and-
for him.
I mean, it's very much like I'm like, George, did you read a lot of romance novels? Because you seem like you may have read a lot of romance novels.
Maybe he practiced with those in the sense of writing only. That he practiced writing those. And now he just kind of copy pasted with random characters, even if it's real gross.
Yeah.
Well-
But I mean, it does make Yara's moment so good when she's like, "P.S. I'm your sister."
Boom.
Mic
Boom.
drop. Like it really.
And he's thinking something like, wait, and that's not weird for you? Why,
Yeah.
why is this a weird thing for me?
It's like when someone disses you when it disses them too.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Your mom is a bitch. You're my brother.
Yeah,
What are you saying?
doing?
Yeah.
You idiot. No, you do get a good dig with her when she's like, yeah, but I'm not the one wearing a skirt. And it's just like, it was kind of funny. But yeah, at least it's not like full, like, I tricked you into doing oral sex. Haha. We're siblings.
I don't remember mouth stuff.
Oh, that's what I interpreted to be
See,
third
I'd say
base.
third base is up for grabs.
So
Everyone's bases are different. I
Yeah.
found out. I guess my school had like the PG bases.
oh,
I don't know.
that's No, I have questions. We'll do it off camera. We'll ask questions off camera. But no, that's. I mean, I always like doing this bonus episode because I like learning all the secrets.
Well, and I hope that it eventually gives us additional insights, pairing book knowledge with show knowledge to come up with our own fan theories of where it could go.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of theories, all right, we've been talking a lot about the books in the show and theories and all that stuff. But this is all in preparation for the final season of Game of Thrones.
Season 8.
Yeah. So based on what we've watched so far, what do we think informs where the show is going? What could come back? I have a specific question because we just watched the Death of Ned spoilers. And this is going to be spoilers for later in the show, too. So if you're not into that.
Oh, yeah. If you don't want to hear predictions for season 8,
yeah,
You clicked on the
stop
wrong.
right now.
Yeah.
do we think through some sort of magic, flashback, whatever, Ned will factor in somehow to the finale of the show?
Jedi ghost type thing.
Situation.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I'm going to say no because I feel like when people are dead on the show, they're done.
No.
And I think that we are so far beyond Ned's storyline now that it wouldn't really make sense.
I know there's been, blanking real hard, Khal Drogo, that actor.
Jason Momoa.
Thank you so much.
Aquaman.
Aquaman has been cited on the set, and he might just have been visiting his friends.
Oh.
So maybe.
But maybe there's because we have a scene later when we get there later in season 2 where Danny has a vision of Drogo, so there might be a magic vision situation.
Or it could be Bran time travel stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, that could work too. And so you could get Ned back in some way. We're going to get more of that stuff. I don't know how I always feel about the time travel stuff. It kind of felt weird when that story was happening. But you could possibly get that. You could see the return of some characters. But based on what we've seen so far, what are you expecting? What are you predicting?
I don't know. I think I'm just a huge Ned fan, and so I wouldn't mind any sort of.
You want Ned to have the final blow, like he
comes
takes a
back.
dragon down with a sword by himself.
Yes, I do want that. I do want that. You're right. No, I would love some sort of nod to Ned because he's kind of it all kind of. It's interesting going into season 2 because it kind of becomes a different show all off of the death of Ned. Like the whole structure of the show changes to what it becomes for the rest of the series. And so I think some sort of acknowledgement of that. I think we'll get an acknowledgement. I don't know if Sean Bean will come back for any sort of like cameo situation, although I would love it.
Yeah, I think I'm hopeful. My season 1 hopes that I would like to see come back are not necessarily to see Ned, but to see the Stark children reunited, which it's already going in that direction. And maybe in that, if they do reunite somehow, that there's some kind of nod to Ned and his legacy in that. I think what we're going to be getting as we approach the end of this story is a lot of the Bran is God theory. I think we're going to get a lot of Bran really being behind everything without really knowing it. So when we saw the Bran Hodor storyline, it was shown that not only can Bran watch as he wargs into people, but he can communicate and kind of control in some ways. So hence Hodor becoming Hodor.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it make sense if a lot of Mad King heiresses burn them all? Was Bran trying to go back and say the White Walkers are going to come down and the only way that you can defeat them is to burn, and trying to communicate burn them all, meaning what's north of the wall, not these people.
Wow.
Right?
That's really cool. I mean, that's awful if he's actually responsible for that.
Right. And then people
because he's still
also,
like a kid-ish, kind of.
Yeah, but he's also a robot at this point, so I don't know if he's
But they think like that's maybe Bran was trying to go back in time and stop it. And that then maybe somehow in that Bran being the king of the whites, the king of the White Walkers, and people have theories about their faces being similar, their facial structures being similar, and maybe in another timeline it's Bran looking at Bran, and that's how even when Bran's like warged into a bird flying by, he can like look right at him because it's both Bran. Like there's a lot of theories.
And he touched him too. He grabbed him. The White King.
I think they're connected maybe in that way. I am not a prescriber of the Night's King or whatever it is being Bran.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do like the Mad King though. That's a really cool theory. That's super cool. I would be on. I mean, I'm It's awful because he went crazy, and that's Bran's fault, and basically literally everything that's. Oh, now I'm seeing.
But I mean, how very Game of Thrones.
Yes, Bran's the worst. Sorry, that's at the end of the story.
But he's not trying to be. He's trying to fix it.
A lot of people try not to be the worst, but that's that. Hey, sometimes you accidentally check your phone, you get in a car accident. It's bad news. And this, he thought he was doing a good thing, but he accidentally caused the car accident of literally millions of people being murdered.
But Bran has too much power. And they have been dropping those seeds since the very beginning of the books and the series, with the three-eyed raven appearing right away, him being crippled and having these dreams right away. That has been growing and is now at such an OP place that I feel like that might be the key to everything.
But there was a guy before him that did it too, and he didn't fuck everything up that we know of.
Well, because he grew into a tree.
that we know of.
Also, the one thing I wouldn't mind if some of that future stuff explains is I would like a little, and we haven't gotten to the rewatch yet, but a little explanation to what was the Night's King plan if a dragon didn't show up to get beyond the wall? You know what I mean? That feels a little bit convenient, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless he knew that, like, hey, because I think rewatching the show, it's interesting to note, like, the White Walkers are literally right there. They're right there. It's not like they need to get their army to the wall. They're there.
Oh, and the point is that they need to break the wall down to come.
And so it's one of those, like, it feels a little convenient that it's like, well, so what was the plan if the dragon didn't show up? Maybe the Whites never really were a threat. Maybe if we just didn't chuck a dragon up there, you know what I mean? We would have been fine. So maybe if he does able to have some way of perceiving the future or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and then there's, I would like to see more on this theory, but I think it's kind of petered out now that we have an ice dragon.
Yeah.
Petered out, because I'm about to talk about Peter Dinklage. But there's lots of theories about Tyrion's parentage and him maybe being a secret Targaryen. And then when you talk about the three dragons and the three riders, that maybe we're talking about Daenerys, Jon, and Tyrion as the third head of that. But now that there's not three dragons for three Targaryen dragon riders, that might be out the window. But I really liked that theory.
I know where that theory comes from because I was looking into it, and the I think it was the Targaryen mom was close with Lannister pops. Was that reverse?
No,
Lannister mom
definitely
was close to Targaryen pops.
Yes.
I'm secretly hoping that
maybe that's why Stannis hates Tyrion so much.
Yes, and that makes sense to me. Tywin.
Yes, why Tywin hates Tyrion so much.
I kind of secretly hope that maybe Dany is a little less target. Maybe she's secretly Lannister. You know what? Just make her and Jon a little less related. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, because you want them to get together. They're gonna do that anyway. But honestly, Targaryens always wed each other. That's commonly known.
I know, but
no, it's not.
I like.
I didn't know that. Sorry, I didn't know that.
They always married each other.
I think personality-wise, Dany and Jon are a good match, and I don't want to feel weird about liking them being together. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Maybe you should.
I do. But I don't want to feel that way.
Well, that's kind of anytime they start to hint at like a Jon and Dany thing, I'm like, no, they're just friends. They just respect each other's leadership skills. Like, I'm with you. I'm very like, nah. But that's probably where they're going to go with it. And they're going to justify it by saying that for decades or generations, Targaryens have always wed each other. So that's that. They don't wed siblings. But they always wed cousins, I think, is what it was.
Who doesn't?
Didn't the Mad King end up with a sibling?
A sibling? I don't know. I'd have to look at those horrible book family trees in the back.
Your favorite.
I thought that I didn't know where that was going. I have to go look at those horrible books again. Those Gosh darn books. Well, and then speaking of people ending up together, we talked a little bit about it. Rewatching the show and knowing where Arya's ended up, it feels like it would feel. Maybe it would be like the bittersweet that the show does so well. Maybe it'd be a little bittersweet if Arya does end up being a lady. But I just can't perceive that for the character at this point. And I feel like Gendry's going to end up with somebody.
Really?
And so it makes more sense to me.
I thought he might be dead already. I know he's not, but it's in my brain.
It wouldn't surprise me if and also Sansa has to end up with somebody. She's definitely going to end up being a lady.
Does she, though? She's been betrothed or married several times, and it hasn't worked out great. She might just want to fly solo.
Somebody's going to be Lord of Winterfell.
Bran. Sorry.
Not Bran.
Yeah, and so
Not Rickon.
So I'm thinking it's
Maybe Sansa will be Lady of
If
Winterfell.
they're going to stick with Sansa with somebody, no, it's going to be Gendry, and so the Baratheon name will go on. But interestingly, at this point, there is nobody to take on the Stark name.
Yeah, no.
Which is kind of a bummer to me. I know it's patriarchal and all that jazz. Like Sansa could take on the Stark name, but going by the rules of this world, the Starks are my faves, and there's not, because Jon is a Targaryen. He's not going to get the Stark name unless he, one, never finds out, or two, because they flirted with the idea of making him officially a Stark, but technically
They
he's a
flirted
Targaryen.
with it. I think that Bran is somehow going to communicate to Jon that he's actually a Targaryen.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be something that happens in
Or
this season.
do you get a crazy reveal that oh wait, that's only the dragon who doesn't get burned. It's not a Targaryen that doesn't get burned, right? That's the rule. Like the dragon doesn't
Well, we
burn.
know Jon can get burned because he grabbed that lamp and he burned his hand.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't know. That sounds like a random aside. I don't remember that happening.
When the White first shows up to fight,
he burned his hand.
he burns his hand, killing it. So,
Right.
So you meant like, remember when he was at the spa? He burned his hand.
he
then.
burned his hand. Yeah,
No.
it was in the behind the scenes features.
Okay, you guys can just kind of unpack this for me. So there's like millions of whites. There's a lot.
Yes.
So that are coming over the wall. What is the actual tactic for taking them out? Where because you tried a dragon, they have a dragon now because you tried to use dragons. They could take one out. Is there going to be an answer with magic, or is it just good old-fashioned blood and guts warfare to take out the rest of the whites? Or are you going to get a Horcruxes, you combine all the powers with the Tesseract and the Infinity Gauntlet,
Yes.
and
there
you
you
snap
go.
away all the... You know, like, because it's like, there's so many. There's so many.
There's so many.
And I know when they mentioned, like in the beginning, because we're rewatching with season 1, they're like, millions of people died before Baratheon took over and Mad King Aerys and everything like that. And you're like, millions? That's even for medieval, that seems like a lot.
Yeah.
And even now, it's like, how many people are actually in Westeros and can actually fight and go up against an enemy that, like, even when you chop off their arm or whatever, they're gonna still keep coming at you regardless.
Yeah,
Do you feel a Harry Potter, let's wrap it up, get a couple magical items and put them
Well,
together?
I think all of us were like, dragons.
Yeah.
Dragons are the answer. That's how we're going to... Daenerys is going to come in with dragons, and that's how Daenerys is going to reclaim the throne. I think a lot of us saw that coming, and they completely threw a monkey wrench in that. So maybe the Lord of Light.
Yeah, because we've shown the Lord of Light, whether Melisandre is the ideal voice box for the Lord of Light. It works. You know what I mean? Like, hey, there's something going on there.
Yeah, we've seen
However,
it with what's his name, priest guy that came back from the dead 6 million times.
I
Yes.
think I would hope it's not some sort of magical Horcrux Infinity Gauntlet thing, because they've set up enough other. They're mining for dragonglass. They've got like maybe 5 Valyrian steel swords around. We do have the other 2 remaining dragons. We do have Wildfire. We do have the Lord of Light. So I would like to think that all that stuff building up. I would rather see a more like blood and guts, get down to work with the stuff that we know works, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be bad, and it's going to be rough, but we'll get it done.
Maybe the things that are combined instead of magical stones or wishing rocks, you get, it's all the kingdoms. And then you figure out how to get all those armies together, and it's like the whole world versus this threat. Here's a question. Do you think we're going to get a setup for the spinoff? My guess is probably yes, because you want some... Basically, you'd get it, in my pitch, is Bran trying to look for literally any hint for where the White Walkers came from, because he saw a clip of it.
Yeah.
Cut to clip. When he saw the guy getting the dragon glass like pushed inside of him, and then like after that it was kind of nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like there's not too much after that. I could see him going back in time and getting. Trying to get like the lowdown on what happened, or maybe there's some hint, and we get to see some characters or some hints of what's happening way back when, and that's like a little backdoor pilot or little hints or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's where all the like Bran time travel theories and stuff come from, because it looks so bad. Like, how could you possibly stop it as bad as it is now? Unless Bran went back in time and changed something, or
fixed it, and goes
back to try to fix it, or maybe fixes it. Like, I I don't know.
Because that feels cheap too. Like that
Yeah,
feels
I
like
agree.
unless all the Starks have to put their hands together and morph
Make
into a
Captain
big
Planet.
whatever. Yeah.
No, and what I
just grab from anything.
if you were to hint it, I think at the spinoff, I think that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be surprised if Benioff and Weiss signed off on that. Like, no, let's just give us our ending. Let's not try and set up another damn thing. Just give us our ending. And what they'll probably do is last episode, like, here's a 5-minute tease of the, you know what I mean?
They'll leave some kind of cliffhanger in the last episode. But George has been saying for years that he told Benioff and Weiss how it's going to end.
Yeah.
And that they're all agreeing that it's going to end the same way the books end the series. They're just going to take different paths to get there.
Okay.
So hopefully it won't be something super cheap and it will be a conclusion that feels like a conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But then, they want to make more money with a spinoff, so there'll be some kind of cliffhanger or something.
I do think no matter what it is, there will be a loud and vocal contingent of fandom that does not like it, whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys are on the side of no magical doodads that are gonna undo what happens.
And George has been saying for years that there are people online who have guessed how it all ends.
That's pretty cool.
So at least one of the fan theories must be somewhat true. I was sure that it was R plus L equals J and the three-headed, the 3 dragons and the 3 secret Targaryens, and that's the dragons were going to take out the whites, and that was the end of it. But boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
Been cool.
I was sure that was
now
it.
people are like, because of the prophet, which isn't a prophet, it's something that happened in the past, but like, he's going to stab the sword in the heart of the, and then this happens, and then what?
I don't know what you're talking about.
This one? Okay, so apparently there's a big old, it's people take it as a prophecy, but it's something that apparently happened in the past to deal with the Light Walkers before. There was a prince who was really in love with this girl, and he had to make the Lightbringer, the sword to take her down. And to make Lightbringer, he tried to forge it like 3 times, and it didn't work. But what it needed was the heart of the person he loved or whatever. So he stabbed it in the heart of this woman, and that's what forged it. That's what made it Lightbringer, and Lightbringer was able to take them down. And so since this was a prophecy, there people are assuming Jon's going to have to stick the sword in Dany's heart, which, by the way, bullshit. All right, like, let's not have to, after all this stuff, after all this show has built up Cersei and Dany and everything, let's not have it be another story where the guy comes in and saves the fucking day. If anybody should shove the sword in anybody's heart, it should be Dany killing Jon. And then she gets the sword.
Because he comes back all the time.
He does. Well, and honestly, that'd be an interesting thing. Like, we kind of assume Jon's safe because he already died. So maybe if he dies.
That's a fair assumption, though.
Honestly, I think it was. I personally don't like that they brought him back because now that was a problem with Battle of the Bastards. Like, well, I'm not worried.
Well,
because you know what I mean. Because you can't pull that trick again.
You could. They just wouldn't bring him back the second time. He'd be dead for good. I think the interesting thing about them bringing him back was them tying him in with Melisandre and the Lord of Light.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got Dany, Targaryen dragons.
Yeah.
We've got Jon, who's in bed with the Lord of Light because he's responsible for his second life.
Yeah.
Plus also Targaryen. So like I think they're putting the pieces into play for what we need for this battle. And maybe it's just honestly that the Lord of the Light and the dragons hold off the battle until Bran can get in there and fix it.
Yeah.
But what's fixing it though? Is that
I don't know.
Yeah, what's
like if Bran is the Night King, then maybe Bran's been doing all this to execute some move at the end that makes it all better. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love to hear your theories. Anyone watching this?
Let us know.
I love jumping down the rabbit hole of Game of Thrones fan theories.
Because I would like to know what you do with like millions of White Walkers, like a continent's worth of white. I just spit on Trisha. Sorry.
It didn't make it this far.
Okay.
White Walkers.
On me,
what do you? But what do you do with it? Because like it's like, do you stab the heart of the lead White Walker and they all fall down dead? Like
that's true. Actually, we don't need to take out the White Walkers. We just need to take out the whites.
So I don't like that.
Or the other way around.
It's the
The White Walkers you take down and it kills the whites.
Yes.
I learned that now.
And there's only like 12 of the White Walkers.
That's bad
But
strategy.
wait, I forget. Does everyone know? Is that common knowledge yet, or
Now
does
it
only
is.
Bran know?
No. The Jon and the rest of that crew
Got
know
it.
because they found out there.
I don't think Bran knew.
And theoretically, maybe
they found out.
And maybe if we take out lead big White Walker dude, maybe the rest of them will go.
But that's like
That's classic genre fiction,
that's
alien army
Chitauri.
stuff.
Yeah. That's Avengers. That's not a great answer either.
No.
And we're also haven't been mentioning the children of the forest or the old gods at all, which we've seen that the old gods obviously still have some play in this because all of Bran's power is coming from the werewood and the old gods.
I'm also going to throw this out there.
I was going to ask about that after, but that's interesting.
I wouldn't mind if the whole White Walker situation is dealt with in like 2 episodes and then it becomes dealing with Cersei.
Well,
And the big
because
fight,
because I feel like the political intrigue is part of what makes Game of Thrones so cool.
I'm going to be honest. I think one of the most stunning technical achievements the show has done is the Battle of the Bastards. But it's one of the least interesting battles because it's the most traditionally like good guys versus bad guys, and there's no real stakes, unlike Blackwater or then Hardhome, just because of the what the fuckness of Hard. It just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Hardhome's terrifying.
Yeah, and then the what was it called? The train battle. When Dany comes in with the dragons and fucks up the Lannister stuff, because Jaime and Bronn are on that side and we care about them, that stuff, and so it's like men versus White Walkers is cool. Don't get me wrong.
What if Cersei makes a deal with the White Walker?
I'd actually be really down with that.
But that makes no
I don't
sense.
care. I'd be down for it.
No, but what if, I don't know. I'm like, what if Cersei makes a deal with Daenerys and you could be right. And then they get rid of the White Walkers, but then it's like Cersei obviously is not going to follow through on that or who knows?
I'm
She's
also
gonna
interested to
smooch
see,
with Lancel, you know.
especially when you're in season 2, you all have the little posses, the ruler and then their crew. I'm interested to see who the final rulers and their crew are. Like we're getting to Jon has Davos and
They're all merging.
Yeah, and personally, I wouldn't mind if it's like Jon and Dany, and then Davos and Tyrion, and that like Jaime maybe even. You know what I mean? Like I don't know
not doing too well.
And
right
then
now.
Sansa stays in Winterfell, and she's got her posse with Brienne and all that stuff. Like
you think Gendry?
Maybe it makes more sense to me now than Gendry and Arya. I feel like Arya is just going to be dicking around the kingdom for the rest of her life.
And that's where she wants to be.
She's so broken.
No.
She's so broken. Like I feel like Arya's late storyline, we just have to look at and say that child needs so much therapy.
Yes, so much.
She's so
She's
broken.
really not okay.
Yeah. And maybe Syrio gets to have the final stab.
He
It's
comes in out from the. No, he
Wait.
shows up as a white.
Yeah, but he has a change of conscience, and then he grabs the what is that, the Valerian steel, stabs the white, he disappears, and you're like,
oh, what do you guys
makes
think
no
about
sense.
the Arya's not really Arya theory?
I don't
No.
think the man.
I can't do that.
I still think Syrio and the man without the face or whatever is the same person.
Okay, yes, but what if at one point this season Arya rips her face off and she's really Jaqen Hagar the whole time?
And where's she?
No.
They murdered her in that murder Arya thing.
What a great story.
I think at a certain point, theories just derail any sense of narrative, meaning anything.
I don't know. Talk about derailing sense of narrative. Arya's whole plot that season was so boring.
Yeah.
Yep.
So bad and so boring. And I think we all had so many interesting fan theories about where maybe it could have gone and it was all a ruse and there's no way they could have just let it be that because that was so bad. Mm-hmm. And they're just leading us to believe that that's what it was. So I'm still hoping there's going to be a gotcha of some sort.
Oh, I don't think everything's going to be wrapped in a nice bow. I don't think, I think it's going to be, for a second I was like, you know what would be really cool is if we had a moment where Sansa and or Arya save the other one from something. Where it's just yes, with the ending of season 7, you saw that they can see eye to eye at the very least and figure out their things and just know that Littlefinger's a bad person. But if you had a moment like that, that would be really interesting to see them oh, we actually care about each other and that'd be cool. But what if somebody gets wronged in some way, someone makes a decision to kill someone or not to kill someone, and it doesn't wrap up the way that in a perfect little bow? That could happen too. Don't know how, but
There's also a lot of theories that Tyrion's going to betray everybody because Cersei's having a baby or something because they have that meeting. And that's the thing. Everybody has their theories. But most
Tyrion's
of them
going to betray
the good guys and work with Cersei. That's a theory that's gone around. Ooh. And because everybody has their theories, some of those theories are not going to be proven true, and people are going to be angry about the finale.
Hey, just watch it and have a little good time.
If you thought people were hard on the Lost finale, I feel like Game of Thrones is going to be a whole nother...
Everyone's favorite character, Theon, gets the big win. Oh yeah, he's still kicking around.
He got a cool scene anyway. That's what theories. We're obviously going to be speculating more in the future. Thank you for joining us.
You guys have to let us know. Let us go deep.
Yeah.
Like write paragraphs. I want to know your
Yes.
full fan theory for season 8. And maybe things we may have forgotten. Is Lady Stoneheart going to actually make an appearance at all, or should we give up? Let us know. But again,
Or the rest of Taisha's story. Will it ever be told?
well, is that how we end the series? That'd be weird. Trisha, where can they find you?
You can find me online at That Girl Trish.
DJ?
At DJ Talks Trash.
And at Sam Bashor, but at Only Stupid Answers. You can get the vowels from stupid on Twitter. And OnlyStupidAnswers.com for all the other information. Click around on the screen if you want to, or if you're just listening to this. We love you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.